Everyone, welcome. We're going to try making sure the volume is up. Can people hear in the back today? Doing okay? Okay, great. I'm sorry that you've had trouble in the past. Please let me know in the future if you're struggling to hear. Thank you. So this image here is of Earth. So this is Central Asia's Tibetan Plateau, justifiably nicknamed the roof of the world, as its highest elevation is more than 14,000 feet. It's the world's highest and largest plateau, covering an area roughly 4 times the size of Texas. It's been formed by tectonic forces that have long shaped the plateau's crumpled and uplifted mountain ridges. The scene also features some of the area's deep glacier-fed lakes. I think it's just simply beautiful. It's on a website called Earth as Art. It relies on the interplay of visible and invisible light across the electromagnetic spectrum made possible by satellite sensors. So this is a photograph. It's another way of looking at the beauty of our world. If you'd like to see more incredible images of Earth, you can go to the website. It's called Earth Resources Observation and Science. It's in the U.S. Geological Survey website. So understanding that beauty at all levels, from way up above to taking close looks at things through microscopes and hand lenses, helps us to see these parts of the world in different ways, opening to new perspectives, seeing with new eyes. The theme continues. So we're on page 89 of the journal today. So there you might want to jot down that there is this extra credit movie coming up on Wednesday, November 5th. It's at 7 p.m. and it's in Ag Science and Industry building at 107, room 107. Merchants of Doubt. It's going to be shown for other folks on campus too. This is another partnership film. And the idea of manufacturing and propaganda, how can we become aware of what's happening for us? It ties into our role, the idea that we aren't necessarily called participants in our society. We're often referred to as consumers. So the idea that we've shifted from being participants to consumers is a pretty interesting branding that we are getting as Americans. So how all of that plays together will be in this extra credit film. So you'll go meet Paige, sign in, and then be ready to watch and discuss. So that's an opportunity for you. There's also on the home page of our Canvas site, down in the corner, this option of resources is a page where you can find all kinds of resources. So if you're looking for ideas for more sustainable shopping, there are some websites there. Understand that I have no buy-in to any of them. And if you have some that you'd like me to add to the website, I'd be certainly glad to do that. So it could be podcasts, it could be websites, it could be clubs on campus. It's all kinds of different resources for you to dive into things that you're curious about. This has been compiled over many years since starting about 2020 in BySize. So please help me add to it. So if you have something to add to the resources page, reach out and let me know. I understand, I don't quite understand, but I'm hearing from some of you that there was some confusion about the discussion posts last week. The what is awe question from week 3 is somehow showing up differently. I can't seem to get to the root of that. I go into the student view option and I don't know what went wrong or what I did wrong, so I apologize for confusion about that. There will be another discussion post makeup opportunity in week 15, as well as an extra credit discussion post that will happen that week. And so I know that some of you missed it and it will reopen again for you in week 15. So I apologize if that was something that I did to cause confusion. So this is where we were on Tuesday of this week, the symptoms, the oceans, climate change, chemicals, habitat destruction. And in that category, something we haven't talked about is the pandemic or pandemics that happen on our planet, one of which we have obviously all lived through and experienced. And so pandemics, understanding that they relate to all of the challenges that we are facing because more and more wild habitat is being encroached upon by humans. And as we go into and take over more wild habitats, whether it's for resources, whether it's for mining, whether it's for trees, whether it's for land, for people to live, whether it's for agriculture, we're encroaching on those natural habitats. And what happens is then we get closer and closer to those wild and zoonotic diseases that are out there in the world that we don't even know about. And then we become closer in contact with them. And that's known to be what caused the COVID-19 pandemic. So any emerging disease in the last 30 plus years has come about as a result of encroachment into wild lands, says disease ecologist Peter Daszak. The deadly cocktail of the capacity for air travel, deforestation, and wildlife trafficking has quadrupled infectious diseases in the last 50 years. So to give you an example of how that works, if 4% of deforestation happens in the Amazon, that increases the incidence of malaria by 50%. So when we clear even small spaces, it opens up this forest edging, which then allows more contact. It changes water flow. It changes, the possibility for more mosquitoes breeding in those little puddles that weren't there, that were forest before. And so more people come down with malaria transmitted by those mosquitoes. So when we start encroaching and disturbing more and more habitat, then we're going to encounter more of these zoonotic diseases over time that may lead to potential pandemics. So when we think of that in this, that's another symptom, right? So we're trying to get at what the underlying causes are. What's the problem underlying, right? And we talked about, some of you talked about greed. We brought up population. We brought up overconsumption, some other things on Tuesday. And we're going to continue those themes today. I'm going to present you with a hypothesis that I have from my scientific exploration, following the scientific method, and see what you think about it. It's for your consideration. As we do this, explore those root causes, you might come up against challenging situations, challenging emotions, challenging thoughts that you have about what's happening for you and for others and for our world. Realizing you do control the thoughts and actions that follow an emotion, and you have a great deal of say in how you react to an emotion as long as you're aware of it. So we've talked about emotions quite a lot and the importance of having them and the importance of giving yourself permission to feel even in these challenging topics, so that then that feeling, that emotion is, it can trigger some kind of cool change. It can bring about opportunity for you. So some of you have hinted at this, when we're talking about root causes, like greed is a really hard thing to face. What are my actual needs? What do I buy that's beyond my actual needs? And so understanding your relationship with how you think about these things, how you feel about them, and how you move through the world can be really powerful. So my hypothesis today is thinking about some more of those root causes, right? So what do you know deep down inside? What are you feeling about the world? And I am curious what you think about this question. Could it be that this world of wounds is a reflection of our own inner world. So when I think about my inner world, I'm thinking about how I meet. The other day, we thought about how needs have been met through the day, right? So what am I thinking about? I know that often if I am sad or if I am anxious, those emotions sort of ripple out and affect the people around me. We are not insulated. If you know that feeling, you walk in and you can tell your roommate is really upset about something, it can have a real effect on you. But then I also know the opposite is true. If my heart is open and I'm feeling love, I'm feeling excitement, I'm feeling joy, then that spreads out of me too. So this relationship between the outer world and the inner world is what I'm curious about today, what we're going to explore. And sometimes if there's something that comes up for you, understanding how that your breathing can bring all kinds of parts together. So I call that breathing through. When something big is coming at you, you need to breathe it through. Don't hold on to it and just let it flow like a river right through you. So breathing can be helpful. So today is going to be a lot about self-reflection. So when you look in the mirror, what is that mirror moment for you like? What do you see? What do you think? What do you feel? Are you greeting yourself with a smile every morning? Like, heck yeah, there I am. There I am. I'm rocking this day already. This is awesome. I am up. I am out of bed. I'm kicking butt. Well on my way to having a great day. Okay? Is that the self-talk that's happening in there? Or is it something different? You know, oh, it's a bad hair day. Guess I have a little compassion for that. Or, oh, it's a bad hair day. God, I can't seem to get anything right, right? So what happens inside? Are you greeting yourself with kindness? What about spending time alone? When you get the opportunity to be alone, like you wake up alone on a Saturday morning, take yourself out to breakfast, hang out, maybe walk around some stores downtown, you know, checking out what's going on, maybe take yourself to a movie, like having a good old date with yourself. Is that, like, how does that go? What is that relationship with yourself? So just take a moment to think about maybe just how today has gone. Think about how that self-talk happens, right? Tuning into your self-talk. What do you hear? When we have this self-talk, it's been shown that it's about 3,000 words per hour. A mix of judgments and observations and fears and hopes and convictions, emotions coming up, all of that going on in our heads. I know that I talk to myself as I'm walking around the grocery store, thinking about, oh, I forgot something over in aisle 1, like, oh my God, like I need to walk back over there. Like I was hoping I didn't run into any of you at the grocery store yesterday because it was really a lot of self-talk going on out loud yesterday. So what's the relationship with yourself? It's the most intimate relationship that you'll ever have, is that relationship in here with yourself. So is it like a courtroom full of judgment? Or is it like a living room couch where you're pretty comfy with whatever's going on? Maybe it's a trance of unworthiness, right? So not talented enough, not smart enough, not good enough. It can be the mood of unlove. John Welwood, psychologist, a deep-seated suspicion that most of us harbor, that we cannot be loved or that we are not truly lovable just for who we are. So if this is what we feel about ourselves, then how is that reflected in the way that we move through the world, in the resources that we use, in the people that we choose to spend time with, in the way that we view the mess of the world? I'd like to show you this short video. as a point of reflection.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me. All right, let's do this.
Team viewer, take one. Mark?
So we've got one question that we want to ask you today.
Okay, well, what's that question?
The question is, if you could change one thing about your body, what would it be?
Only one. I would change my forehead. I have a really big forehead. I'd like to be taller.
The puffiness of my face.
My ears, my big ears.
That smirks after the baby.
A lot of times, like, kids make fun of me, like, hey man, you get big ears, you got Dumbo over there, you know?
Definitely my skin, because I've dealt with acne and eczema issues ever since I was a little kid.
我小时候，因为大家比较喜欢大眼睛的那种美女，所以我就也希望自己眼睛能大一些。
Growing up, like a lot of people call me five head or like your forehead's so big, they always like would say something to me about it.
Yo diría porque muchos dos caminan derecho y como que mi pie está un poco chueca.
When I was younger, I felt like I wasn't quite adequate enough.
Can you sit on the tray? All right, I'm gonna ask you one question.
What's the question?
If you could change one thing about your body, what would you change?
Um, hmm.
Half over my tail.
Probably like a sharp mouth. Like to eat a lot of stuff.
I could have teleportation when we're done. Extra clean ears. I want legs like a cheetah so I can go around faster like a cheetah. I could have wings, like fly. I don't think there's anything to change. I like my body actually.
Yeah, you wouldn't change anything?
Nothing else. Just nothing else.
A lot of people obsess about getting older and about the wrinkles. I love my white hair. I loved it when it started turning white. It's one of those things, because I chose to stay this way, because it just wouldn't be me if I totally changed the way I look.
You good?
Self-alienation is epidemic in our world today. So what happens if we find a place of self-acceptance? And what do we need to do to get there? Is to really see where those judgments are hanging out inside of us. So how do you judge yourself? I struggle with the fact that I'm not fun enough. I've been told I'm not very fun, so that doesn't help. But it's also that just my interests are different than a lot of people of my age. The things that I think are fun are just different, right? It's taken me a long time to see that the judgment of myself that I don't fit in and I'm never going to fit in is really just that I'm going to look for people that enjoy the things that I enjoy. And I find those people in a lot of different places. So it's a combination of the responsibilities that I have been given of being a single mom with 3 kids and holding all of that together. Doing the things I have to do doesn't allow a lot of time for fun. But if I continue to think of myself as not fun, I'm not going to move through that process. That judgment of myself certainly isn't helping anything. So where is it for you? Where is it for you? The way that it shows up for me, that not fun enough with my boys, is that then I buy an excess of games and toys and things to try to entertain them and try to show them that I think that they can be fun and that I can be fun if we do these things. And so trying to prove myself by buying stuff hasn't worked. It's just now my house is full of a lot of stuff. So these consequences of the judgments that we make for ourselves inside ourselves. So take a moment, this is a challenging thing. Not blank enough. How do you judge yourself? Using your I language, becoming aware. If we can't be kind to ourselves, then it makes it even more challenging to be kind to each other and then to the world, the environment, the nature that we are so deeply connected to. Some of our challenge comes from an old philosopher from way back in the 1600s. Understanding the Cartesian split is what it's called. So way back, Descartes, 1637, said, "I think, therefore I am." So 1637, just as colonists were arriving on the coast of this continent, this ideological separation of mind and body and mind and nature, understanding, I think, therefore I am, putting our thinking capacity way above the other things, our other connections. So how we think about things rather than how we feel things or how we connect to things became the way of success in the world. So if you think of our Western mainstream society, Western mainstream culture, think about the fact that right now you spend a lot of time sitting in seats in classrooms, thinking, or at least that's what education is supposed to do for you, emphasizing the thinking, the separation, right? My kids are both now in middle school and they get 10 minutes outside, right? They went from having recess in elementary school to getting, if they sacrifice their lunchtime, they get to go outside for 10 minutes. So how is that so separate, right? What happens that we are trained that there is this separation of mind and spirit and mind and body? And where do emotions fit into all of that? So this was a huge moment that we have gotten divided up as humans, and thinking is now celebrated more than emotions. I've been doing a lot of reading about emotions. That probably doesn't surprise you. And understanding that emotions weren't really studied until the 1980s, and then books didn't really get published until the mid-1990s. And so now thinking about how your education may have included more about mindfulness than mine did. So it's like this emotion revolution coming, where my kids people are paying more attention to it. But that's only because now science is saying that it's important. after all of this time, since 1637. We often get silenced, right? Either experiencing this false belonging with people, trying to impress people or trying to be what other people want us to be. So we get silenced, we go small, whether that's some of you have spoken about, well, I'm afraid to be emotional in front of people. They might think I'm too much. So we make ourselves go small so that we can fit in. And yet that's not really going to help us to connect our real selves with the world around us. So next week's readings, there are going to be 2 choices, all related to silencing. They are challenging, both challenging readings, emotional readings. But please pay attention in there, in Canvas, that one is a very challenging article to read. And so there is a disclaimer there in Canvas that you should choose the reading that seems to fit you best, and that will be the right one. So pay attention to that. So the understanding that all of this disconnect then leads to other disconnects. So this, probably not a typical home, but parts about it might be typical. We often drive our own cars. Some people pull into their garage, the garage door goes up, they pull in, and then they just go inside. So there's very little connection with their neighbors. And so how is it that this disconnect that we're feeling in today's society, there was a big study done about this in 2021, is the most recent one I could find. And that study revealed that 12% of Americans have no trusted friend. And that number has gone up. It's up from 3% in the decade before. 12% have no trusted friend. The idea that we are radically social animals and that a considerable portion of our population feels very separate, feels very alone. This isn't community. When we think back to the very beginning of class with the sidewalk experiment, the idea that we create our culture. How is it that we interact with the world, the people around us? And so we have this, right? This book Sherry Turkle wrote called Alone Together. The idea that we expect more from technology and less from each other. We have a whole class period on technology coming up, so I won't belabor the point, but it is a point of reflection that at even younger and younger ages, this false connection is happening. There are benefits, definitely, to having our own devices with us all the time, if we know how to properly balance. So the rise of addictive technology and the business of keeping us hooked, just the fact that that is a line, right? Business of keeping us hooked. So people are disconnected. Technology is a tool, and when it's used appropriately, it can be very useful. But how much of it is designed now to be addictive is fascinating and frustrating. So this separation, then, not just technology, but other types, this deeper separation. At this moment in history, humans are dangerously insane and very sick species. As a testament to insanity, humans killed over 100 million fellow humans in the past century alone. No other species violates itself on such a grand scale. Only people who are deeply alienated state would create such a reality, says Eckhart Tolle. So what is this separation? It doesn't have to be this dramatic of killing each other, but what is this separation? So my hypothesis is that because we're feeling somewhat separate from ourselves, that then we are separate from each other and separate from Earth. So I'm sharing this pondering with you of how does this feel? Does this make sense to you? Does it not make sense? Do you see other hypotheses accordingly? And so I'd like you to talk to your neighbor about this, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know it's not very long to talk about something pretty big, but I'm anxious. I think I'm excited to hear about what you're thinking about. How do you perceive this? How does it resonate or not resonate with you? I've got my pen ready. Want to take some notes. Who would like to speak to this?
I would say racism, that separates us. It's not good. Yeah.
Yeah. Not being able to see people's perspective. Yeah. Thank you. Other thoughts? There's
Um, I feel like I don't know how it was kind of created, but it feels like society in the last few decades especially has really pushed like kind of an image people should uphold. Whether it's like beauty standards, gender norms, like these types of things and then it kind of is like continue to be perpetuated in the media, and so then people feel like they have to fit this mold to some degree. And then I feel like a lot of criticisms of ourselves, especially when I think about my own life, is because I don't fit, I guess, the conventional standard of what, like, I guess, like the ideal man should be or something like that. Even though it seems kind of stupid when you say it like that, like there's like this weird external pressure.
mm-hmm. Yeah, which then becomes an internal pressure is what I'm hearing. Thank you for saying that. That's big.
I was thinking when like, especially because we're in college now, everyone's from different like backgrounds and different areas, so that separates us, especially with our viewpoints. Like, it separates how people think just because we're all from different spots of the world.
Mm-hmm. Does it become an opportunity for sharing of ideas? That's intriguing to me. I think there was somebody in the back. Was it Molly? Had her hand up.
My turn. There are actually two things. This first made me think about whether introverts always existed,
Mm,
because being introverted now I can go through an entire day and not have to speak to anyone probably and still do all the things I normally do. Like DoorDash or anything, even like anything you can do without talking to anybody. But also, the separate from each other, like separate from ourselves, goes to separate from each other. That makes me think about how like when I was in a time when I wasn't very confident in who I was and I didn't really know much about who I am, I wasn't confident enough to talk to people I don't know because I didn't know how they were going to perceive me because I didn't know how I perceived me. And so I think that that's really, really interesting. And I've felt that the more that I learned who I am, the more comfortable I am sharing that with other people because it doesn't matter what they think of me because I already know what I think of me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. It's a challenging thing to think about because I feel like it almost becomes loops of, I'm not meeting what the expectations of society are, and therefore I'm not meeting my own expectations. But then why should I meet society? Like there's lots of questioning and exploring and, yeah. Does anybody else have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, kind of going off what Molly said, some people in my lab group made a good point. Like, if you can't trust yourself, how can you expect to trust other people? And like,
Yeah.
I can relate to that too. I definitely became more social when I like became more comfortable with like who I am and stuff like that. Cause if you like assume negative things about yourself and you have like bad self-talk, then like you'll probably have bad self-talk towards other people or you like won't assume like good things about them, so you can like self-isolate a lot.
Yeah. Which then is also a perpetuating cycle, it feels like. Thank you for that. I find it interesting to wrestle with the ideas. So humans and nature, right? We have talked about this, the deep connections and relationships that we have, and by extension, other humans as well. And so how that relationship, that radical self-love, it feels radical because it feels like something that is so exciting and so such a big choice to love who you are and to know who you are and then be more comfortable with other people, right? So how can we extend that? And then also going back to, using all of our equipment to figure this out. The head, the heart, and the gut, all connected by the vagus nerve to navigate situations. So there is this science, there's the science of figuring out who we are, which takes all of these parts. There's also this challenge, right? We are talking about, in part 2 of the course, we're talking about all of these very hard crises that are happening on the planet. And so all of this equipment can also be applied when we're considering all the things that are happening, right? This is part of our relationships with ourselves. Our bodies are impacted by our emotions, our choices about what to do are also impacted by our emotions. So if we feel very strongly about something that's happening in the world, then we have the opportunity to choose to act toward in help of that thing. So what kinds of emotions have been coming up for you when we have been talking about oceans and climate change and birds and all of those tragedies? What emotions? Why don't you just yell them out? An emotion you've been feeling. Guilty. Stressed. Fear. I feel sad. So here are emotions when people are polled about this: despair, grief, overwhelm, fear, anger, uncertainty, et cetera, et cetera. They're also the flip side, the people that feel animated, that are ready to move and make change, right? So Concern about climate change coupled with the worried about the future can lead to all of this. And these are now called, there are words related to this. Knowing that you're not alone. APA reports from 2017 and 2021 that stated the growing concern of the mental health impacts of climate change. Out of 10,000 youth aged 16 to 25 from around the world, Austria, Brazil, Finland, France, et cetera, 59% of those 10,000 were very or extremely worried about climate change. 84% were moderately worried about it. 75% experienced fear. 83% said people have failed, like, to take care of the planet, and now it's on our shoulders. So what do we do when we experience it's called eco-anxiety or climate anxiety? There are some researchers that have been working on this. Jennifer Uchendu, Blanche Veerley are just two of those people. So when we experience these things, and this is what we're going to proceed with as the class continues, we're going to be thinking about this. You might want to sketch this down on your page 89. So what you should do, right? Figure out what brings you joy. What gets you up in the morning? If you don't pay attention to what brings you joy, you're going to get burnt out doing whatever you choose to do. So it better include some joy. What are you good at? You have a special skill set as being you, which is so freaking cool based on your experiences and your life, all of the gifts that you've been given, your genetics. So you're good at these things, your special skills, your networking, your resources, and your personal magic. And then what's the work that needs doing? What are the climate and justice solutions that need your attention? And then where do those intersect? Figuring out what you should do. And keep in mind, this is so important. The goal is not to be perfect. There's nobody expecting you to be perfect. That's so true for me, right? I'm not expecting you to do it perfectly. It's not possible. It's just that if you're caring about it, make some motion, make some change. Be courageously you. So we have some role models, these beautiful people of Guatemala. They celebrate the idea that there's not separation. So if there's a child sick in their family, then it's considered that the family is sick and the neighborhood reaches out to help. If several people in the village are sick, then the whole village is sick, and maybe people from other villages come to help out. There's this collective consciousness, and it's extended to the land. So if there's something going on with the land, then it affects the way the people move through the world because of their deep feeling of connection. So your sense of self includes the people and the things, the environment around you. There's no separation. It's a pretty lovely concept. And then also to consider that all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say, watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands. So the idea that the generations before us have done the things that they've done, made the choices that they've made, and you and I are here in this moment, ready to take action for what needs to be done for the love of the generations to come. So considering this internal world that we experience all day, every day, the idea that we can be our best friend and support and believe in our actions can be super empowering, even in the face of the challenges that we're up against. So I appreciate your listening. Thank you, and I hope you have a beautiful day.